Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I wanted to show you how to make a beautiful, elegant floral easel card. So if you haven't made one of these before, I'll show you exactly what you need to do. I'll give you all the measurements and it's really simple. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be starting with these rectangle dies. These are the double stitched rectangle dies from Art Impressions. And we're going to grab that largest one. We're going to die cut that twice out of some Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. I'm going to be running this through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine, and I've die cut 2 of those. And you can see that those have that beautiful stitch border all the way around. We're going to be using this clear stamp set from Art Impressions, this absolutely gorgeous floral set. We're going to be using all of those pieces except for that wreath there. And this is the Floral Invite set, which would make absolutely gorgeous invitations. But today we're going to be making a thank you note. So I'm going to place that panel that we die cut earlier. We die cut 2 of those. I'm going to take one of them. I'm placing it sort of in the center of the Misty here, just counting up and over to make sure that when I place the next piece of cardstock in here, it'll be in the exact same place. So I've counted up about 5 rows up and about 5 rows in. And this is so that I can lay my stamps down so that they overlap the card. They're going to go off the edge of the card here. And I just want to create a nice floral pattern here on this panel. So it's sort of like putting a jigsaw puzzle together a little bit here. So I'm just going to try to kind of fill in the center. I like working from the center and working my way out towards the edges. And you can see there that I grabbed pretty much all the florals except for that wreath. So I'm going to be inking these up using the Morning Mist. This is a Versafine Clair ink pad. These are permanent ink pads. And this is a beautiful gray color, just a really soft gray. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. And then for the gray, I am going to stamp twice. I do want a nice crisp image. So I'm going to ink that up again and stamp that one more time. So now while those images are in place, I want to create the second panel. So I'm going to mark that little area where I need to put the paper back. So again, I counted up about 5 blocks and about 5 blocks. So I'm just using that little pencil mark to figure out where my paper needs to go. So I'm going to position it exactly where the other one was. Now I'm going to take the Versafine Clair Nocturne, which is a black, a jet black. I'm cleaning off my stamps really well, and then I'm going to ink this up and I'm going to stamp this. And with the black, I really just needed the one stamping. I got a nice dark image. So now I've got that same exact pattern on 2 of the panels now. So now I'll leave that black one in, and now I'm going to try to fill in some of the other areas here. So I'm just going to grab some of those stamps. And again, you want to make sure that you clean them off really well because you're going to be placing them down on this paper and you don't want to transfer any ink here. So just make sure you clean those off before you do this part. Now I'm just going to try to fill in the gaps. And now I'm going to do the black since that one is already in my Misty Stamp Positioner. So one of these panels will be with the black ink and one will be with the lighter gray ink. So now again, while those images are still in my Misty, I'm going to take this panel out and put the light gray one back in. Again, making sure it's right in the same place it was before. And you can see that there. And then I'm going to make sure I clean these off really well. And going back to the Morning Mist light gray ink, I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. Now I'm going to clean these off again, and while the gray panel is in here, and I did stamp one more time just to be sure that I had a good image. The left side there wasn't quite stamped enough. So now I'm going to take these images and position them on this gray panel since that's the one that's already in my Misty. And again, just fill in those last little areas down here at the bottom. So again, I'm using the gray ink here. And I will double stamp that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the black one in, lining it up again. Just pressing that down there. I didn't want to touch it too much, so I just used a paper towel to make sure it was stuck down. And now I'm going to go ahead and ink this up again with the black. Now, I didn't mention that I just taped that cardstock in my MISTI with a little bit of the Tombow tape just to hold it down. I didn't want the magnets to get in the way, and you can see that it easily removes when you're done. So now I'm heat setting this with my heat tool just to make sure everything's dry. So I'm going to set aside that lighter gray panel, and now I'm going back to these dies. I'm going to take that fourth largest one, and I'm going to center it right on this panel here. I'm going to make sure that I spend a little time lining that up. I'm taping it down with some purple tape, and then I'm going to run that through the die cutting machine. So that's going to give me the inside panel. That's what I'm looking for. But you can see here that I get this beautiful frame, which I will use for another card. I'm going to set that aside for now. So now you can see now that these are going to line up perfectly. That little black rectangle is going to line up exactly with the gray panel underneath there. So I'm just going to be coloring in this front section with pale rose, light blue, turquoise green, cobalt blue, and peacock blue. So here's my color palette. This was kind of my inspiration. So I grabbed a bunch of markers that I really wanted to use the colors together. And I just thought this was so pretty and kind of unusual. I didn't want to do the typical floral colors. I wanted to do something different. So I'm going to start off with that pale rose color. I'm going to start coloring in the center with that, and then I'm using my blender pen to pull that color out towards the sides. And I'm using the Zig Clean Color pens to do my coloring. And this is a water-based marker, so I'm using my blender pen to blend these out. And again, I want to keep that darkest color in the center here. And I'm just using the one color. And you see that I'll come it back in with a little bit more of that color. So if you didn't get enough shading, you can blend this out. And then you can come back in with a little bit more of that color in the center here and then pull it out again. And you can do that as many times as you like to get a nice shading. So I'm going to do all three of these flowers the same exact way here. And like I said, I kind of wanted to create a little bit of an unusual color palette here. But you'll see in the end, it's just very elegant and very soft. So don't be afraid to kind of just grab your markers and see what kind of colors you come up with. It's just kind of fun to see what combinations you can work with. Now with light blue and turquoise green, so these are two of the colors in our palette here, I'm going to start coloring in some of these leaves. So these ones that look a little bit like ferns, I'm going to use the two shades of the blues here. I'm just adding a little of that darker shade and then pulling it out towards the tips. I'm going to do all those same or like leaves the same way. Now with peacock blue, I'm going to do these leaves here. So anything with this shape, I'm going to use the blue. And again, I know it's kind of a strange combination, but I just thought this was so pretty. I just love how this peacock blue looks. And again, I'm just using the one color here and just pulling it out towards the edges, so it goes very quickly. So I did the others the same way. Now with peacock blue, turquoise green, and cobalt blue, I'm going to color in these larger leaves. So I'm coming in with the turquoise green, adding the cobalt blue, and then adding the peacock blue right down the center. I'm going to pull these colors out towards the tips of the leaves here, just out towards the sides. That's going to give us a nice shadow right down the center there. And again, I'm going to do the similar leaves the same way. Now I'm using a gray color here. What I wanted to do is add a little shadow to all of this. This is just going to bring everything to life here a little bit. Now you certainly could leave it white just the way it is. This does take a little bit of time to do, but I thought it was well worth the time that I spent on it. Adding that gray just kind of here and there, right up along the edges of the flowers and the leaves. And I'm just going to just soften that by pulling it out towards the center of this panel. And I'm just going to kind of add shadows here and there. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm not going to put them everywhere. I just kind of want to give that illusion that the flowers and the leaves are a little bit more three-dimensional. So I'm going to continue doing this all the way around, and there you can see the finished panel here. Now I'm going to scribble that gray color right onto my glass media mat. I'm taking my water brush and I'm just squeezing a couple drops of water there. I'm going to pick up some of that ink, but I want it to be nice and wet. And I'm not trying to create polka dots here. What I'm trying to do is create a splattered effect. I just didn't want to splatter this panel because I didn't want to get that gray ink on all of my flowers and leaves. So it's kind of a controlled splatter, if that makes sense. I'm just kind of tapping it on, and I don't want the circles to be perfect. So you can see I'm going back there and kind of going over them. I want them to be nice and wet so that they kind of blend and bleed a little bit. Then I'm going to heat set this, and again, just to kind of create that more splattered effect, I'm just going to tap off some of that ink here. That's just going to spread those out just a little bit more. So I'll continue heat setting that and drying it off. And now you can see how pretty that looks. That just brings the whole panel together. So now you'll see that it lines up exactly with the panel, the gray panel that we've already created. So I'm using my Gina K Connect Glue, and I'm going to apply glue all over the back of this panel, and I want to make sure I have plenty of that on there. I want this to lay nice and flat. So now I can easily line this up with those images underneath, and you do want to spend a little time here to make sure those are lined up nicely. That's going to give the illusion that this just continues right on. So I'm just going to spend a little time adjusting that here, and then I'm going to set that aside to dry. While I do that, I'm going back to these double stitch rectangle dies, and I'm going to take that fourth largest one we used before and the next one, the fifth largest one, and I'm going to create a frame. So I've just taken some pieces of Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock here, and I'm going to attach that larger frame, and then I'm going to slide this smaller one right inside there. We're going to create a little frame here, a nice narrow border, but it's going to have that beautiful stitched edge on both sides. So what I want to do is use my purple tape to tape that in place. Then I'm going to add some more purple tape just to the top of the die here. That's just so because we're going to be using this more than one time. So I went ahead and I ran the first one through. Now you can see that I just grabbed those dies. They're going to stay right together exactly the way they are now. And I'm going to run them through 3 more times. So that's going to give us that frame. And again, I'm leaving those dies all connected together while I run that through a couple more times. So I'm going to end up with 4 of these. And you can do as many as you want. I like to save the excess pieces that I die cut, and I put them right with the dies so that I can use them for another project. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue these together. Again, I'm using the Gina K Connect Glue, and I'm going to stack these up, and this is going to give us a nice thick frame. Now another way to do this would be to add some foam mounting tape on this. Just die cut 1. But I wanted this to feel nice and solid and just kind of not just part of the card, like a nice thick chipboard embellishment. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue this to the card now. And again, I'm adding that glue, and I'm going to line this up, and it's really easy because it lines up exactly with the frame that's already there. And now that gives us a really nice, interesting look to the card. Now I'm going to grab this other little image here up at the top, just a smaller one. And this is going to be for the inside of our card. So I'm going back to the Nocturne ink pad, which is the black, and I'm going to stamp this again on some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. I went ahead and colored it in just the same exact way I did before, and I'm going to cut this out with my detail scissors, and I'm going to leave a little white border all the way around. So that's going to make this really easy to cut out. And you can see that there. So now for my card, I cut a piece of paper 8.5 by 5.5. I'm going to score this at 4 1/4 and 2 1/8. So this will be a standard A2 size card. So I want to fold it in half, and again that's going to be a standard A2 size card, which measures 4 1/4 by 5.5. And then at the 2 1/8 inch score line, I'm going to fold that in towards the center of the card. So that's going to create the little easel for our card. Now I just want tape on this lower section, so from that score line down, I'm going to use the 1/4 inch score tape. I'm going to place it right along that score line, just below the score line. You can see that there. And then all the way around this bottom panel here. I like to press that out with the bone folder. It just makes it easier to peel back the backing on the adhesive. And then I'm going to go ahead now and line up this panel. I'm opening up the card. I'm going to line this up right along the edge there. Make sure it's nice and straight. And then when I pick it up, you'll see that it's only attached at the bottom section here. And that's going to create our little easel. So this piece here, this flower here, is going to be the part that I'm going to use to hold the easel upright. I decided to make the thank you card, but again, you could make a beautiful invitation this way as well. I'm using that second smallest rectangle die, again from the double stitch rectangle die set. I'm going to run this through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. And again, I'm going to get that nice stitch border there. So I'm going to grab that thank you stamp, and I've placed it in my MISTI. I've already lined that up. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that up again with the Nocturne ink. And I'm going to stamp that. And I want that sort of to the right hand side of this panel because I'm going to be putting the flowers on the left side. So now again with my Gina K Connect glue, I'm going to attach this flower to this little panel here. I'm going to let that dry. Once that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and pop this up. Now you do need to pop this up on the inside of your card. So however you want to, whatever you want on the inside of your card, you do need to make sure that it's popped up because this is the piece that's going to hold the easel upright. So I've applied the Scotch foam mounting tape all around the back of this, and here you want to make sure that it's really straight because otherwise if it's crooked it won't hold the easel, the top part of the card, straight. So what I like to do is grab my T-ruler, my T-square, and just kind of lightly place that down until I make sure that this is perfectly straight. Once I know that it's straight, I can go ahead and press that into place. And you can see that's going to hold that easel upright. Now I'm going to add a little bit of the Nuvo Crystal Glaze. This is just a clear glaze. I'm just checking it first just to make sure there's no bubbles in there. And I'm going to add that to all the little berries on the front of the card. That's going to give, again, a nice glossy finish there. Then using my Uniball Signo white gel pen, I'm going to add to the little centers of the flowers some little white dots. So that'll just bring a little bit of that white into the center of the card as well. I'm going to do that same thing on the inside. So here's the color palette we started with, and you can see how that came together. So let me give you a closer look at the card so you can see that we have the light gray on the panel in the back and the image is in black, so it really makes it stand out. And then we can just pop up that easel. Now if you want, someone can sign up underneath there, kind of behind the easel or on the back of the card as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.